got up in orbit and we made our first rendezvous very successfully, just as prescribed, so we could at least fill one square. And of course, there was a shroud on top of the angry alligator. We couldn't dock. It was tumbling. We had 2 delays. We lost an engine. We had a shroud that stuck on. We had no computer updates. Who knew what to expect at that point in time? And yet, maybe the worst was yet to come.
Then came the big step. We were going to do the first spacewalk completely around the world. Now, before that, there'd only been one walk in space by Americans, and that was Ed White for a short 22 minutes. And Cernan was to fly this Air Force experiment. The astronaut maneuvering unit was going to be in the back of the spacecraft. It'd be on a 125-foot tether. He would fly around.
I opened the hatch, and I stood up in the hatch. Tom held my feet down. And of course, when you pressurize that spacesuit, it's like a big Thanksgiving Day balloon going down Broadway. You just pop up like this. And I needed to get back in the back of the spacecraft outside and work my way back on handrails before nighttime came.
He was torquing the spacecraft all over, huffing and puffing. I could tell he was working hard. He got in the back, and he started to deploy the AMU, get the arms down, but then he fogged over completely.
I overpowered my environmental control system.
So it was a very precarious situation. We had the hatch, it was open. My partner was hanging on to the back end of the spacecraft, doing 17,400 miles an hour, and he couldn't see, and we lost one-way of two-way comm. I made the decision, we're calling it quits, and we'll start working our way back into the spacecraft immediately.
It's so hard to describe. You can go right up past Alaska and you can see the polar caps. It's incredible.
Yeah, it sounds like shortly we'll soon be about 55,000 miles out, huh?
Fortunately for us, Tom and Gene were able to pretty much duplicate what we were going to try to do on 11. In trying to help us as much as they could, they tried to make their flight plan as much like ours as they could. And that was of great benefit to us. They would use the same orbital trajectories, they would use the same positioning over the lunar surface, they would fly down the approach path over our landing site, and most importantly, to measure the unusual bumps in the lunar gravity. So it gave us a lot of increased confidence that we just might have a chance of pulling it off.
And then they stopped the descent engine, fired off the ascent engine as if they had aborted. That worked perfectly. And then got going back up to rendezvous with the command and service module, and lo and behold, they had some problems with the attitude control system.
We got computer switches in the wrong mode, and our lunar module went out of control for about 15 seconds. Became a lot more critical than we appreciated at the time, although when you see the lunar horizon go out your window in different directions about 8 times in 15 seconds, it gets critical enough to, and we're a hot mic, that I said something to the effect of, golly gee whiz, what the heck happened?
Hello, Houston Apollo 10. We've got a beautiful view of the Earth here, but it's absolutely fantastic.
But ultimately, Apollo 10 ended up to be the real pathfinder for Apollo 11. I tell Neil I painted a white line in the sky so he wouldn't get lost, and all he had to do was cover that last 6 to 8 miles.
Unfortunately, it seemed to have evaporated by the time I got there, and I couldn't find the white stripe, but the pictures they had taken showed me just where the white stripe had been had it lasted that long.
All right, what a show. Buckner, how you look great. Say the camera. Ah!
Here was my dear friend, Alexei Leonov.
I saw face of Tom Stafford. Tom Stafford smiled. I believe that everything is okay.
And we both put our hands together, and it was the famous handshake in space, not only of two people working together, but it was a symbol of our two countries working together.
A pioneer is a person filled with desire to see what's over that next hill. And Tom Stafford is a true pioneer. His desire to see over the next hill has led him to the far side of the moon.
soon.